All right, welcome everyone to our sixth episode of Learning Live with AWS and HashiCorp. I'm here with my wonderful streaming partner, who I will let introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jenna Pedersen. I am a senior developer advocate for AWS. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, and I'm Cole Morrison, a developer advocate over at HashiCorp. So for those of you who have just tuning in for the first time, we've been creating a microservices architecture on Amazon ECS without a service mesh. And then this next part, we have been reworking it to use a service mesh with HashiCorp Consul. So Jenna, I was wondering if perhaps you could give us sort of a recap of what we've done in this second section of episodes so far, right? So what we've been doing, and you can go into as much of the code stuff as you want to or don't want to.
Yeah, so this is episode 6. We're going to be like wrapping some things up this week. And what we've done in this last section of episodes, I think it was episode 4, 5, and 6, we started setting up our service mesh. And to do that, we ended up having to create some EC2 instances so that the console server client could run on those. Am I saying that right? The client?
Yeah, I mean the agent, but
the agent. Yep. The agent runs on those.
Yeah.
And then last week we set up it up so that, well, it wasn't last week. And now I'm misremembering.
All good.
Yeah, sorry. Where's my code? Let's actually look at the code here. Can you share my screen?
Yeah, for sure.
This will help jog my memory.
Yeah.
So we set up, did we dig into I know that we talked about,
it was a lot in the EC2 file, I believe.
Yeah, EC2. There we go.
Yeah. And we just
right.
little index of things, right?
Yep, exactly. So we started filling all of this out, and we left that empty for the last episode. So when we started digging through all of those different variables that we're passing to this server.sh file, which is what is setting up our instance when we provision it. So we did all of our the TLS certs. We did we talked about the bootstrap token and the gossip key. And then what this auto join tag is for, it's to make sure that console knows which EC2 instances are a part of the service mesh. And then the other big thing was in our our scripts, or our server.sh file. This, if you were here, you'll remember this was a big copy paste. And we kind of walked through each of the different pieces here, but basically we're setting up some of the keys on the server itself, and then we're setting up the ACLs for console, so that it knows, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, so that it knows like who can talk to who, or I'm sorry, knows that yeah, is that right?
Yeah, just you can think of it, the ACL system, it's basically like the analogous IAM system, right? It's the IAM of console. So that's basically what we've enabled there.
Okay. Some other settings here. What else is interesting? Starting up the actual console agent when we are doing this.
So in essence, the config file, the console config file with all those things. Yep.
Yeah. What else did we do? I can't remember if it was, I think that was a previous one, but
yeah,
we talked a little bit about variables, and they all blend together because this is episode 6, so we've had a few things here. But what I'm excited about here today is we're we're actually going to like tie all of it together and see it in action by the end of our episode today.
Yeah. So in essence, we made all of like the security keys and values that we're going to need for the console cluster to communicate with all of the members. And then we piped those into this boot script, so the user data script in EC2 to create the config file with those values. That just starts console up. That is really it. And Jenna did a good job of walking through the different lines there. Obviously, there's some more details in there, such as the ACL system, what all of these options do, but that is in the previous episode. And below us, we have the past episodes link there. So if you want to go check those out and figure out exactly what's happening there, definitely look at that. Yeah, so I've got some stuff below us. If you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, in the description, a pointer to the GitHub repo. I'm going to show this on screen right here with our code base as it currently is, and you can follow along with us by just following the instructions in the README. It's actually pretty quick, assuming you've got an AWS account. And then there's also the past episodes link in the description as well. So yeah, as Jenna said, we set up the servers. That is in essence, in a nutshell, what we did. We got those ready. And just to what we're going to be doing today, though, is completing that architecture, right? We're going to be adding the console agent and the proxy to our existing services. So the thing is with the console servers, that's what we did. We are just doing this again with the clients. So let me share my screen here real quick. Just to give us a look at a slide that we looked at. We won't do this too much, but this was the slide we looked at, right? In essence, what we're setting up, each of the white boxes being our services, the pink boxes in the middle here being our console servers that are going to manage everything. And then these blue boxes are representing the proxy and console agent that we're going to add to our existing ECS services today. So we're going to finish all that up. Now, how we're going to do that, it is in essence what we've said there, but what we've been doing with the services so far is we've got one container in each of those task definitions, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to add some extra containers that are to these existing ones. They're going to act as sidecars, and they're going to be exactly what we have in here. We're going to have our main service, or our main person, and our delivery person analogy, and we're going to add those extra containers, and it's going to start communicating through those out to everything else, as opposed to communicating directly to them. And so in this picture, instead of the white boxes talking to each other directly, they go to the blue box. Blue boxes talk to each other, and that's how we get more control, since the console servers are going to have control over all of those different proxies. So hopefully,
in this diagram, the blue box labeled proxy and console agent, is that what we refer to as sidecar?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely it. I guess where it gets a little confusing, and that's a really good point to bring up, Jenna, is when it depends on where we're deploying console, right? Because if we're deploying it to just straight VMs, we're just starting an agent in the background. We're starting a daemon process, right? So we're just going to start it up with systemd or something like so. When we're talking about Kubernetes, though, or ECS, we are going to take those agents and put them in another container and have those communicate through the container. So that's probably what's going to make the language a bit odd, right? But hopefully that made sense. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Nope.
Yep. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at what these things are in a nutshell, but from a big picture schedule, like what are we going to do today, right? As opposed to getting lost in all of the language. We're going to make some secrets in Secrets Manager, right? We're going to create some logs so that we can actually see what's going on throughout all of our services. We're going to learn about Terraform modules today, and then we're going to use a Terraform module to actually make this stuff happen for us, because otherwise creating these container sidecars ourselves, probably not something we want to do because there's a lot that needs to happen to it. And then finally, we're going to do a little bit of refactoring and tinkering on the security group side of things before we explore what console can actually do for us. So we're actually going to hit a very big checkpoint today, in the sense that we'll be able to see console in action. So that is it in a nutshell. Please tell me if I missed anything there, Jenna.
No, I think you hit it all.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that and add that back in. So that's going to take us to just sort of getting into it, Jenna. I guess I think we talked about you were going to get stuff up in the background, correct? Or
yeah. Before I get into that, I just want to like talk to all of you at home real quick. As we're going through this, if you have questions, please drop it into chat. If you have comments or feedback, drop that into chat. And we will attempt to get questions answered, or at the very least, one of our moderators. I know Darko is out there. I'm not sure if Rosemary is there today. We've got a few people in chat that can help answer your questions, or at the very least point you in the right direction. Additionally, about partway through this episode, we'll share a survey. And we use this as a way to collect feedback, both on the show and what we're doing during these episodes. But also, if you have any product or services feedback for either Cole or I, we can bring that back to our teams and help incorporate that to make your lives easier. So stay tuned. We'll do that in just a little bit. But we are going to dive in. I can't even remember what you were asking me, Cole, when I said
No, that was perfect. This is why you're such an amazing co-host. I would have completely forgot to like tell the audience any of that stuff. So that's perfect.
Well, we got to say hi to all of you at home, because otherwise it's just
right?
us staring at the wall. So
yeah, for sure. And yes, ask questions for sure. Right. So where we're headed today is we have set up the servers. We need to set up the clients to do the same thing. And that begins with us doing some seemingly unrelated work. And that is making some secrets in AWS Secrets Manager. What secrets? Well, the secrets we need to make are ones for our gossip key, our root certificate authority certificate, and then also let me take a look here. Somehow this is escaping me despite the fact I've been looking this. One more resource. I can just pull it up here. The last thing is going to be, of course, the ACL Bootstrap token. What those are, we can kind of do a recap as we get into them. But the first thing, Jenna, could you give us sort of a nutshell what Secrets Manager is?
Yeah. So most of you probably know that you don't want to store secret things, sensitive information like API keys or passwords in your GitHub repository or hard-coded in your code. And so Secrets Manager is a way to, it's a service that allows you to store it in the service and then actually be able to rotate those keys in and out on a schedule. Or if something gets tampered with, then you can automatically do that. And there's an SDK that actually lets you in your code retrieve the most recent or the current version of that secret. And all of this can be automated so that keys get rotated on a certain time frame too.
Yeah, we won't be using nearly the breadth of features there. We're going to use it for its like simplest case, right? Which is just going to be, we're going to make a placeholder for a secret and store something in it, and then just kind of use it as a central location for the rest of the pieces in our infrastructure to grab the secret from it safely, right? So that's pretty much it. Now to do that, I have some documentation I sent over to you for the AWS Secrets Manager secret resource. I was wondering if we could hop over to that in your browser just so we can take a look at it. Sweet. And I can send the link over to you. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Secrets Manager secret is as simple as it looks right there in the example usage. That is really all we need to do. You can just straight up copy that if you want. And this is whenever we make a secret in Secrets Manager in Terraform, we actually need two resources. We need this one. So let's go ahead and knock this out. Yeah, we can just copy it straight up and rename it. Let's make a new file. We should probably make it outside of scripts though.
Oh.
Well, yeah, it gotcha. It tricked you.
Got me.
Yeah. And we'll just throw that in. And the first one we should make, let's go ahead and do it for the gossip key, right? So we can just call this, yeah, there we go, gossip key. And what you name this, again, it doesn't matter, just how we're going to reference it here. Now, as for the name, if we hop back over to the documentation for the secrets manager resource, there's a number of options. If we scroll down to argument reference, yeah, so there's like the key management service key you use. There's name prefix, policy. Policy is literally like an S3 bucket policy, except for your secrets recovery window. We're not going to use any of that. We care about one option here, and that's going to be name prefix. We're going to use that instead of name, and that's just going to make it so that we give it a prefix, and when the secret's created, a random alphanumeric strings added to the end of it, which is helpful. So we've seen that before. Stuff doesn't collide. So let's go ahead and use that option instead of name over here. And as for the thing, why don't we just use our, what do you think, our project tags or something as the prefix here?
Sure.
Sound good. Sweet. Yeah. And of course, naming, what a thing, right? Because they can, how you go about naming these things, really, I don't really care as long as you're just consistent, right? So, yeah, and then I think adding something there to the end, yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay.
Sweet. Yeah. So that's the first thing we need. But much like with our security groups, how we need the security group and then the rules, we also need, for the secret, we have the AWS Secrets Manager secret resource, which is sort of an umbrella. And then we have the secret version resource, which we can see over on those docs, which is how we actually store the value. So it's a little bit roundabout, but it does give us more flexibility. If you scroll down on the left side of the navigation, yeah, I know we should probably make the fuzzy search there a little bit easier. But there we go, the Secrets Manager secret version. The fourth item there. This is actually how we store the secrets. And the example is exactly what we need. We just need the ID of the secret that we're going to be going towards, and then whatever we want to store in there. So this actually works out there. So as far as the value, yeah, you can just name it the same thing, which one might wonder, it's like, well, we named the other thing the same thing. You can name it something different if you want, but the fact that every time we reference this, it'll say AWS Secrets Manager secret version, then console gossip key, will sort of have a little bit of differentiation there. Yeah. Now, for this secret string, what are we storing? Well, we actually need to store the console gossip key, right? So we have that, I think, in the secrets file, right? I believe, yes, we do. The console gossip key. Okay. So we need to pull an attribute off of it. Let me send you the, actually, I think you might have it, the random provider documentation here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I can send that.
I have it.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. And if you wouldn't mind hopping over to there, perfect. You just click on the resources side on the left. Oh, on the random doc. Yeah. And then just click on random ID. Yeah, there we go. Obviously, we know how to use it because we've used it. The question is, what can we get off of it? For some reason, on our random provider, instead of attributes and arguments, if you scroll down, we just have required and then optional and then read only. Read only are what we can pull off of it, and we actually need that first one, the B64 STD. So to reference that, I think you probably have yeah, there we go. That's exactly that. And then, yep, that plugin, that module is or the.
Yeah, I just want to say the VS Code Code Complete plugin or extension that I'm using it's very helpful. Between copying and pasting and using that extension, I'm not doing a lot of typing, so. Yeah,
which is it's so pleasant, and I mean, I know that our team that maintains that would love to hear that, so I will send them this clip. And that's all there is to using the Secrets Manager in Terraform. That is it, like right there. That's all we need. There are other options you can put on this secret version, like you can specify a version if you want. You can specify the rotation. There's a lot of other things you can do. But if you just want to store secret value, this is all we get to do. And we just need to do this 2 more times for our Bootstrap token, and then once again for our root certificate authority certificate.
Okay.
So Yeah.
While I'm typing this out, I'm kind of curious if I needed to if I was going to manually update the value of this secret string,
Yeah.
would I just change the value behind here and
Yeah, I
then
mean, you could.
reapply everything?
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. If you wanted to do a different version, though, you could have multiple of this secret version and then just add that version key thing. Let me take a look at the docs here so I'm not just saying incorrect things.
Yeah.
Secrets manager secret. Yes, the version. So you would make multiple of the secret versions, and you would just change the secret string and then the version stages, just so they know what they are. So you could keep around your old values if you wanted, but you can just overwrite it if you would like to.
Okay, got it. That was exactly what I was trying to understand. Is
nice
that.
Yeah. And yeah, and again, there's not a real reason to rewrite everything, right? Because this copy pasting here works just as well. And that secret ID Jenna's just wrote, that just binds it to that umbrella resource that she put up there at the beginning. And I believe this is a UUID. Yeah, random UUID instead of an ID.
There we go.
Yep. And we could go and look at the logs again, but ID is exactly what you need there.
Okay.
So, yep.
Looks like it's the only thing available too.
Yeah, yeah. So there is one more we need, and that is the root CA certificate. So if we take a look over, yeah. So I think you've got that there. And so this is going to store while Jenna types.
What would we be looking at if I wasn't just typing stuff out?
Sorry, say that again.
What were you going to point me to look at?
Oh, just the TLS.tf file we have just so you can easily grab the value. Yeah, just we want the self-signed CA cert here. So it should be that one, the self-signed CA cert, right?
Okay.
What? Yeah, you know what? Let me double check. I actually think we need the
root.
I actually think
or no.
We actually need
double
the.
check while I'm typing.
Yeah. Okay, just tell me when you're good. Yeah. So while she's typing, what we're storing here is the gossip key, which is used to encrypt gossip encryption between all of our members in the Consul cluster. The bootstrap token, which is sort of the master token to control the ACL system within Consul itself. And then the root certificate authority, which is something that we made back in one of the previous videos, which is going to serve as sort of as the parent certificate authority above all other certificates that are made and distributed. Because we have one root certificate authority that has signed everything, everyone can check the certificate they have against that certificate authority and know, hey, we've all been signed by the same one, so there's some trust that we can create there. So yeah, the CA cert is indeed it. Yeah, and that is it. And cert PIM, just random trivia, the .pim format stands for privacy enhanced mail, even though that is the format that keys and certificates are stored in. I find it odd how those legacy names, kind of like the floppy disk sticks around for the save thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So that looks good. Okay, so that is our secrets manager secret. I know we're not doing the fun like index thing, but having to stop and make these each time, we'd be like bouncing back to this file. So probably best to get them out of the way. Yep. Would you mind opening up that TLS file one quick? I just want to make sure we picked the right one. Yep. Okay. That is, sweet. That's it. Perfect.
Okay.
So that takes us to the logs. We got to make some logs here, right? So why don't we make a new file called logs or CloudWatch logs, whichever you'd like here. And then when you get a moment, when your fingers get a moment, we're going to be using CloudWatch logging, but I'll let Jenna tell you all about what CloudWatch logs are.
Yeah, it's a service for us to be able to essentially dump all of our logging into, and we can go and kind of dig through stuff on a service. I think we're going to set this up service by service. Is that how we're going to do that? We'll be able to dig through it on a service by service basis, so it's not just all in one spot, kind of like maybe you do on if you're running just a normal virtual machine and have everything output to one place. This lets us, direct it to certain places, and we can add alerts on certain things that happen as well.
Yep, that's exactly it. And you could use stuff like Splunk or some of these other different logging systems, but just for ease and because it integrates so well with ECS, we're going to just stick with CloudWatch logs. Now, Jenna, we could do the gauntlet of typing. Do you want to type, or would you rather just sort of dump what we have? What do you
I'm
think?
gonna just do some copying and pasting, I think. And
Nice.
then, because there's quite a bit here. I mean,
There
it's
is.
not a lot, but
It's actually repetitive too. So
exactly.
yeah,
And we can just walk through what I'm pasting
yep.
to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're setting up these log groups that are specific for a service, or for, in this case, the client sidecars, the fruit sidecars, and then the ACL logs as well. So we've got a few different groups here, log groups here. And I'm going to have to update some of these things.
Yep. Yeah, while you update it, I can just sort of talk through here. So I just posted a bunch of links into the chat. So that point to first our CloudWatch log group resource, which is how you create a log group within CloudWatch. And then second, the task definition parameters for setting up log groups on ECS task definitions, which is what you see here at the bottom. So as complicated as this looks, there's actually only two concepts here. So if we go back, actually, we can just look at it in this screen where you're at here on line 25, because they all follow this format, right? It's a type of resource, log group. We've given it a label ACL, and we're going to name it ACL logs based on our project. And that is how they all are. This is just a place where we're going to send our logs. The locals here, this is us just being convenient so that we don't have to type this all in line. For every ECS task definition, we need to pass something called a log configuration, and it takes this exact format here. You specify the log driver, which in this case is AWS logs. It could be Splunk. It could be a number of other options. And then we pass an options map with options for it. One of those being the log group, next the region, and then just a prefix for the stream of logs themselves. So that's all that's happening here. I know that if you're not as familiar with locals, or maybe you haven't done a lot with like maps and or whatever, maybe that looks a little off, but there's not a lot happening there because it's the same for all of them.
Can you just real quick remind us what locals is?
Oh yeah. Great, good call. When you make locals are a way for us to yeah. Locals are a way for us to reuse values throughout the rest of our project. So we're making these here so that elsewhere in our code, we can just type local.acl_logs_configuration and have that map put into right there for us. So you just, if you've done any programming chat, right, it's just a variable, which I know is confusing because we have input variables, but we'll see those again here when we start talking about modules.
Yep,
cool.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of the like setup work, and now I guess we can talk about modules because we're going to be using them. This is a pretty big concept in Terraform that, interestingly enough, can kind of get a bit lost in stuff, right? So in programming, Jenna, have you done much with JavaScript?
Yeah. I mean, not a lot recently, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. But you understand the concept of like an NPM package, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Some sort of dependency, whether it's a package or something you're importing, or it's different in every language, but yeah, it's
right. Yeah. They all have them.
A common concept.
Yeah. That's exactly what modules are. They are reusable code that we can pull in. They are a wrapper for a number of pre-made resources. Now, I know that's a very generalized definition, so let's relate it to something we've seen a ton of here. For every resource that we create, we have the resource that accepts arguments and then gives us attributes we can reference, right? So that's pretty simple. Well, modules, what they do is they accept a list of input variables, and then behind the scenes, they have a bunch of resources, just like we see here, and they go and they create them, and then they make available to us a set of outputs. Now, Jenna, I think you've got some pseudocode that I just wanted to show people. if you wouldn't mind just, yeah, you can just make a file, a throwaway file. We can just get rid of it afterwards.
So for these modules, are people making modules within their own code bases and then using them themselves? Kind of like I might create the checkout process package, and then I might reuse that on different. That's a really bad example.
No, that's a great example, actually, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
But like the checkout process package, and then if I had different stores, I could reuse it across different store sites that I have.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
That's exactly.
It's not just for HashiCorp to create some official ones. It's for anyone to be creating these.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is it. So the module syntax that we have here, and I'll go more because what you just said there is a pattern that should be used more. I guess generally we don't talk as much about it, but I don't, at least. Anyhow, so we've got this module example here, and every time you make a module, you're gonna have a module block followed by a label that is of whatever you want to call it. So we're just calling an example here. Now, the first thing that you're going to usually specify is the source, which is where are we going to go fetch this module code? Well, by default, we're going to go look at the Terraform registry, and on the Terraform registry, it follows this particular pattern. You don't need to memorize this pattern. You don't need to know anything about it. You just need the link to the Terraform registry, which I can drop into chat here in just a second. Oh, here we go. Yes. So here are all of the Terraform modules. Post that there, and then on LinkedIn as well. Terraform modules. So when you follow that path, you just pull one down from a registry, you specify the version, and whatever umbrella of resources that module represents, it will go and create. Now, alternatively, you can make a local module. If we go all the way back to episode 1, we talked about how Terraform only cares about the files in this flat directory here. It doesn't care about anything else. If we wanted it to care about something else, we would make another folder, start putting Terraform files into it, and then specify the source to that directory, and it will assume that it is another Terraform module that it can start making resources for. Now, that may seem a bit ambiguous. It'll make more sense here when I show you the kind of weird magic that's going on. After we've created a module, though, we can pull outputs off of it, just like we can with other resources, which is what lines 12 through 14 represent. Now, here's the fun little trivia. Our project here is actually a module. Now, that kind of threw me for a spin. It's actually a module. If we wanted to make this whole thing something reusable, we would literally just make a folder, move all of the Terraform files into that folder, and we would actually be good to go. So if this module example that we have on the screen here was ours, you might be wondering, well, what would the parameters look like in here? Well, source would point to the folder we made, and then everything we would put here under it as an argument. If you open up the variables.tf file, so it's just, right there, that is the arguments that you pass to it. So hopefully that makes sense. And what can we reference off of that module? Well, anything we have in outputs.tf. And that is just sort of this simple how you make this code reusable, right? So this is a module. And in fact, when you start interacting with other projects that are root modules, this is how you'll pass values between them as well. So yeah, did that make sense, Jenna? I mean, hopefully it did.
It did. So our variables and outputs are inputs and outputs to our, we call this a root module, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly it.
To our root module. But we can also create our own module in addition to our root module.
Yep, definitely. So we could do that. We are not going to create our own, but we are going to use some existing ones. Okay. So would you mind opening up the Terraform registry page? I think the doc should be under there. Yes, perfect. So here we have our modules section where you can look through thousands of different modules, and all of them have specific things you're going to do. So would you mind just searching for consul-ecs in that search bar up there? Yeah, there we go. This is going to be one of the modules we're using today. And I know that we're kind of hopping in here because this module here is interesting where it itself is not a module. Instead, it's a collection of submodules. So if you click that drop down on the submodules drop down right there, and then click the ACL controller, yep, you'll see a general README of what the module is. But if you look at inputs, so that's the inputs tab, this will tell you all of the things that we need to specify in this module. So this should look familiar to how we work with Terraform resources. And then if you click on outputs, which is up, but those tabs, yeah, outputs, there's only one, it's the client token secret. But if you click on resources, this shows you everything that's going to actually go and make. So you know what's being made in the background, and those should look pretty familiar. Like at least the resources should look familiar because we've been working with those, right?
Yep.
Cool. So I just did a lot of talking there. Jenna, what thoughts or curiosities or additions do you have to that?
I don't think I have any additions right now. I think are we ready to just start creating it?
Yeah. So let me ask you, how do you want to do this? We can talk about what the ACL controller does. This is a module we're going to use, and then create it, or we can create it and then talk about what it does. What's your preferred flow here?
How about I start creating it and then we can talk about it at the same time?
Okay, that works. That's a very nice. I like your concurrency of thought. Yeah. Okay. So
this one.
Yeah. So the ACL controller, while Jenna scaffolds this out, we're going to put this in the ECS services thing. And why? Well, because what it returns in the background, what it's making in the background is an ECS service. And one might ask, how do you know that? Well, you just look through those resources we just saw and we would know that. So you can put this anywhere in the file. I think when we did it, it just was at the bottom, but it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, so we need to scaffold out the ACL controller. So if we'll head over to the bottom of the file, we can just add a new block, just module
below.
Just below it. Apologies. Yep, there we go. And then just name it ACL controller, since that's what it'll be. You can call it Consul ACL Controller. It's really whatever. Yeah. And the first thing we're going to need is the source and the version, as we spoke about, and that's going to tell Terraform where it needs to go to grab the source code for this module and what version to use. And then after that, we've got a number of other things that are going to go under it. So,
yep. Sorry,
go ahead. Yeah. So when do you want me to go ahead and just start talking about what it is now? Okay, cool. So let's go back to our analogy real quick. I'm gonna share my screen instead and give Jenna a little bit of a break from the spotlight here and just show a slide that we had last time. Let me get it up. There we go. Where was it? Oh, if I could navigate my own computer correctly, that would help now, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. Okay, so way back when we looked at our original analogy for a service mesh, we related it to delivery people. So if you want to, instead of talking to people in our little mailing group directly, we all have a delivery person. Delivery person is sort of our in-between, our agent for these communications. Meaning if I want to talk to Jenna, I talk to my delivery man who talks to her delivery man who talks to her. We do this because if we have someone overseeing all those delivery people, we suddenly have a lot of control from security, observability, and just, well, every other thing, because we see everything that's going on. Consul has the security concept, though, that is so secure that it says, I will not talk to anyone that does not have a delivery person. Okay, so if we have someone new come in and they don't have a delivery person, how are they going to get one? Well, they can't, not directly through Consul, because Consul won't talk to you unless you have one. So what that means is we have to do that. We have to make that, we have to give a new person a delivery person outside of Consul. That's exactly what this ACL controller is going to do. What the ACL controller does, and let me show this other diagram that we have here. What the ACL controller does is it is going to have the bootstrap ACL token. So for all intents and purposes, it is all powerful in our ACL system. And what it's going to do is it's going to watch every new service that gets launched into Amazon ECS and give it and talk to the console servers on its behalf to get these new ones a delivery person. Now, for the direct technical terms, what that means is that every time a new service joins, it is going to recognize the service, make sure that it has the right credentials, talk to the console servers, make it a new token, so a token to become a part of our cluster, and hand it to them. Now, as for why this isn't built in, why we need a separate thing for here, it's just an order of operations thing. You could technically go to each of these clients and like do a sleep loop. You could just store them in an S3 bucket and have things watch that. But this just this takes care of it and makes it a bit more secure. By a bit more secure, I mean probably a lot more secure, and takes a lot of the manual work out of our hands as operators. So hopefully that made some level of sense. I'm going to remove this and share Jenna's screen back, who I think has completed stuff. So did that, how did that concept sound, Jenna? Did that make sense or?
Yes, I only caught the last half of it because I was typing, but yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It's helpful to like to pull in stuff from the past episode when we started looking at that and see how we're layering some of this stuff on top of it again.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, when we have a new service join our cluster, they need a way to be authenticated in essence, right, and authorized throughout the cluster. But Consul will not talk to anything that is not authenticated and authorized already. Therefore, we need something outside of the cluster to manage creating those tokens and handing them out to people. And that's what this ACL controller does. You can overthink it. And trust me, I overthought it a lot. But in a nutshell, that is what it's going to be doing for us. So looking through the stuff that Jenna passed in here, we have some pretty straightforward stuff, right? So name prefix, the cluster that this ECS service, this new service is going to be launched into, the region it's going to belong to. And then we're giving it two things that it needs here to play the role of ACL controller. And that's the bootstrap token, which is letting it be a master and commander of the ACL system to do what we just talked about. And then, of course, the servers, the root CA certificate, so that it can validate any other certificates that they're definitely a part of it. So you looked like you were about to check on something.
I just was going to check to make sure that I used the right variable name here, and I didn't. To let you finish. Yep, I just called it region before. Did I just? Perfect. I did just call it region. Well,
I mean, that sounds good to me.
In Terraform code, is it common to preface like variables and names with the provider, like AWS _ blah blah blah?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's probably, it's not probably, it's preference to a certain extent. But obviously, if you were doing something with like on-prem regions, for example, then you probably would want to differentiate between those.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. I don't really have a solid answer on it. So.
No, that's okay. I was doing something last week, and I was like, I wonder how I should name this. And since we're touching on it right now, I thought I'd ask. So.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I would probably say yes, just on the off chance that you might spin up something on, in a different region or, but anyhow.
Okay.
So those are the first two things. The next thing is this console server HTTP address. This is where we tell the ACL controller where the console servers exist. Now, something curious about this is, well, why aren't we pointing it to the console application load balancer? And hey, aren't we just pointing it to one server, but we have three? Like, how is this all going to work out? So the reason we're not pointing it to the public-facing console load balancer is because if we did that, this ACL controller would play merry-go-round, whereby it would go out through the NAT gateway onto the public internet and then go right back in through the public load balancer. That's not currently HTTPS connected, so that's probably not the best. The reason we're picking just the first server in our list is because the cool part about these servers is, let's say that this server that we're contacting to join is a follower and not a leader. And if you need a refresh on those, go make sure you go check out our previous 2 episodes. The reason that won't matter is because if it is a follower, it will forward this request to the leader, which is going to save us from needing to set up an internal load balancer. Really, we could specify any of the server private IPs here, and it would work all the same, because if it's a follower, it would know to forward it to the leader. And if it's a leader, well, then obviously it's good. Now we're hitting 8501 here, the port, because this is how normally when you interact with Consul's API, you do so over 8500, but 8501 is how you do it over HTTPS. So there's that. And Jenna, please feel free to stop me at any point in time if you have thoughts or anything that you wanted to cover.
Yep.
And here we are using that log configuration we made, right? So that's just going to drop in there. And what this module is going to do with that log configuration is it's going to set up logs for any sidecars that are in there, which for this, I believe, is just one. So this will just be one place for our ACL controller. And then we get to security groups, foreshadowing our need to make yet another security group. We'll do one at a time. They'll be pretty simple. And then subnets are where we're going to launch it into. And we've seen the depends on statement before. So do you have any thoughts or questions or on this thus far, Jenna?
Can you remind me what the star is in that syntax?
Yeah, absolutely. So that right there is where otherwise we would need to pass it. Cole, can you speak? Yes, perhaps I can. So we've seen this in other areas, and what's happening is this subnets expects a list. Now, when we created our private subnets, we used that count parameter, and the count, therefore, we turned it into a list. So if you want to reference a resource that's used the count parameter, this is one of the tricks that you can use to do so. It's just the splat parameter, and it's going to return a list of all the IDs of those private subnets.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, cool. And chat too, if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to stop me as well. So that takes us to the, let's see here. Yes, the security groups. That's what we need to make now.
Yeah.
So we need to make 2, but we'll just make the ACL controller one for now.
Okay.
We'll make the console client one later because it's going to be used across a number of things. We've seen security groups before. We've done a ton of them before. So yeah, so I have a question here. If a console agent restarts, what happens to the ACL token? So I'll just answer this. While I do this, Jenna, would you like to, yeah, there we go. Make our yeah. So what does happen to the ACL token? Well, if you're a console agent and you have a token, you've gotten that token hopefully through a configuration file. So if you've done that, if you've gotten it through a configuration file, then when it restarts, it should just pick it back up again and start working. Now, if you've specified that ACL token via like an environment variable or something that's ephemeral to each shell session, then you would need to respecify that again. So now as for however, in our little system here, in our ACL controller system, it's going to manage that for us. So if a service were to go down and come back up, it would detect it and give it to them for us. So we actually won't need to worry about that too much. Good question. Okay, so our ACL controller security group here, Jenna, right? It's pretty straightforward. We've seen this before.
I do have a question. I noticed that we're naming this one self. What does that mean here?
Yeah. I
see this.
Yeah. That's so the equivalent to this would be to, instead of putting self, put source security group ID and just reference itself. So that's all it's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just saying that if you have this security group attached to you, ACL controller, then you can access everything, which that was probably not the best description. But in general, if you have this ACL controller security group, if 2 people have the ACL controller security group, they will be able to talk to each other indefinitely. And yeah, cool. So the outbound is saying outbound anywhere, right? Yeah. Okay. So I did want to touch on a topic here. We need to organize our source code in a bit better fashion. You know, this is the interesting thing, because this security groups file is getting pretty big, right? Like it's getting pretty big. It's getting pretty big, I would say, probably because we're looking to the future probably more than we needed to, right? Like every service probably didn't need its own security group. However, it may in the future need its own access, which is why we have them there. But the thing is the reason why this has sort of kept the AWS services in the file side is for instant recognition, but also once this starts growing too big, that probably means you need to change it into a module anyways. And as soon as you do that, that will lighten this code base's size. So, but yeah, there are many different ways to go about organizing. And chat, if you want to state in the ways that you're all are doing it, I would love to see it, hear it, and share it. Okay, so that is the security group. So we should probably, for time, keep trucking along here, right?
Okay.
So the next thing we need to do is go take a look at our client task definitions. So if we go over to our task definitions file, this is when the real stuff is going to start here. So right in ECS task definitions. So I'm going to actually, could you go back to that page? Yes, this one, and then go to the, you see the drop down that says ACL controller, and click on mesh task. Yep, that's the one. And then another question, if you restructure from Darko, if you restructure code, would Terraform apply be affected? Would it recreate any stuff? The question is, it depends. If we change no names at all, right? If we don't change any of the actual stuff Jenna has coded and we just move it around, we put it in different files, as long as those files aren't nested in a folder, as long as it's in that flat file structure, nothing will be affected. It won't recreate anything actually. However, if we do start naming stuff, changing things, even if it will, thankfully it'll catch it and it'll tell us in a plan/apply up front before it does it. So hopefully we'd be able to catch that. Okay, so that mesh task here, what this is going to do here, this is a module that accepts pretty much identically what we have in ECS task definition, to the point where we're going to be able to just rename our current ECS task definition after this module. And what it's going to do is return to us another task definition that has all those sidecars added to it. So we don't have to set any of those up. It's going to make this really fast and really simple. It's going to set up all the inter-container networking. It's going to set the proxy up to take any new traffic. And it's going to work in terms of connecting it with other services that are set up in this fashion as well. The best way that I could think of an analogy here is it would be if you handed Jenna and I like a hamburger, right? And hamburger's your service, and we wrap it in our AWS bun, Terraform, lettuce, and toppings, give it back to you, and it's just done, and it'll work with Consul. That's pretty much what this does. I know I was short of a description. Hopefully that worked.
No, that was great.
Yeah, but if you look at these required inputs, the top two look instantly recognizable, right? Container definitions and family. So why don't we hop back over and we can just start working on changing this around. So yeah, what we can do here is probably just change see line 4 resource AWS TCS task definition. Just change that whole thing to module, just like, and then there you go. Perfect. And then we can actually leave these top things here. And at the top, right before family, that's where we can add that source and version. People are hungry from our AWS and Terraform hot dog analogy. Yeah. And so this double slash there.
Thank you. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, right. That's actually, we should probably document that somewhere better. But what that's going to do is it's going to tell when Terraform goes to pull down the source code to drill down into the module and use this sub module called mesh task. So that's all that's doing there. So let me take a look at what we got here. So all this stuff that you have here from line 8 all the way to the end of container definitions is going to stay for now the same. We're going to change the upstreams here, but we can finish the rest of everything else that we need after container. So on line 46, let's just make a new line. Yeah, I like this. A fake service can provide fake food. Yeah, technically we are, right? We're doing fruits and vegetables, so it's a good that's a good call out. We have a number of other options that this module is looking for. So what do you want to do? Do you want to type them out, or you want to just drop them in and we can walk through them?
Let's just walk through them.
Okay, that works. Yeah. So Jenna's going to do some of her magic here and drop these in.
Did I put those in at the right level?
Yeah. Just all on that first top level. And yeah, I think we need the up. There's 3 more we need to add, which are upstreams, retry join, and depends on. But you know what? Let's do these. Let's walk through these first, and we can add those. So hopefully, as you can see, if you're an ECS user and you're looking to refactor to use Consul, you don't have to change a lot. You're going to be adding to it. Jenna just renamed her task definition, and we're adding more arguments to it, and that's really it. So those arguments that it's going to be accepting here are actually just in the background setting up all the configuration file stuff that we did on the server, or that we did on the servers for the client. So that's what we're passing in here. And we're telling ACL system we want it to be on. So I'm just starting here around line 49. The line 50 is just the prefix for in the ACLs that are being used, the data center it's going to be in, and then we're passing in the root certificate. So once again, it can verify incoming things that it is signed by our root CA. I'm going to skip the client token secret ARN because we'll talk about that in a second. We're passing in the gossip key so that it can participate in gossip across our cluster. And then we're using one of those log configurations we made, right? We also have port down here, which is just telling Consul ECS where, right, what the port it should be, and then that we should use TLS. Now, going back to line 53 here, this module, this is the first time that we'll see we're using that ACL controller. We're pulling a value off of it. We're pulling the ARN of the client token that is going to be used for this task once it's created, this service once it's created to connect to our Consul cluster. So that's all that those are doing. Hopefully that made sense. Yep. Cool. And what is it? I did want to address a question. We did have a question like tips on upgrading any tips on upgrading the AWS provider. It's going to be very specific to what you are going through. What I would make sure to do is look through the release notes for each of the major versions and ensure that there's not any big breaking changes. I'd say the biggest change to watch out for is when you upgrade to version 4. We did change the way that S3 buckets used. So I think as long as you pay attention to that particular resource, the upgrade shouldn't be too bad, but definitely make sure that you look in between version 3 and 4, Nasor, if I'm saying that username correctly. Okay, apologies, Jenna. So we've got 3 more things we need to add. Those upstreams, the retry join, and depends on. If you wanted to just drop those in there. And this is just stuff that that's needed there. And there's a lot of comments here because, again, Consul ECS, our module we're using is still in beta. It is still in beta, so we haven't finished out all the documentation. So hopefully some of these, the commentary we put here can help. But all the upstreams things are doing here is, remember, we're going to be pushing all traffic out through a proxy, right? Well, we need to tell this proxy what we're going to point it to, so the service, and then what port we should make that available to for our local containers. That is what these things are doing right here. Our destination name should map to the family name of another task definition using this this module, right? Which we're going to do. We're going to set fruits up to use that. And then the port here, this means that when our client port goes looking to talk to the fruit service, it's going to go out through localhost 1234 as opposed to the straight service itself. And we just do it again for vegetables here as well. And a techie thought asks, is there any observability component built around so distributed tracing? You know what? I'm gonna direct you to Rosemary Wong, so one of my fellow developer advocates, because she knows tracing so well that I would just embarrass myself if I start trying to go into that topic. So yeah, I would check in on with her on that, and I will ask on your behalf as well, just in case. So back to what we've got here for the upstreams. That's the main change we have to do there. And as a result of those upstreams, we are going to need to change the upstreams we had in our environment variable. So we may as well go ahead and get that done if you want to hop back up to the container definitions here earlier in this resource. Yeah, right there. And then around line 41, instead of the ALB, right? Because how are we contacting them right now? It's through an application load balancer, right? Yeah. Now we just need to point this to localhost 1234. So that'll be our first one here that we'll change this to.
Like this?
Mm-hmm. Exactly like that. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah, and then once again to 1235. And we're seeing how we get rid of load balancers, right? That's going to be fun. Yeah. And yeah, so that excited me probably more than it should. But
no, I get it.
Yeah, but that will let us free up some space within our infrastructure, and just the cognitive overhead, right, of dealing with another component. We'll be able to remove those and just let Consul handle directing traffic to the fruits and vegetable service for us. So
before we move on, Shantanu has a comment about aligning the equal signs in our code. We can do that. There's a command line tool that we'll use at the end. I think it's Terraform format.
Yep, that's exactly it.
We'll get there.
Yeah. And shout out to all the GitHub people out there that make changes to their Terraform code and then run Terraform format and make it one PR. It's fun. Okay, so that brings us down past upstreams and to the retry join statement, which is right under. So if you'll scroll down to, yes, retry join. So if you recall, in our servers, when we set up servers, we actually had a retry join statement, and we used those tags to create that auto join function, right? Well, if you're not using the auto join function, you can just straight up put the IPs of the servers. And for our purposes, that's what we're going to do here. We're giving it all three. It's going to try all three. Whichever one it connects to first is all it needs, and we're good to go. Yeah. And then depends on is exactly what you would think. It's just saying the ACL controller and all of its resources must be created first. Okay, so I know that we. What are your thoughts on this module so far as an ECS user, Jenna?
I'm mostly good. I'm just right now. I'm making sure I understand like where we put all of this code. So this is in the client module, which was originally the client, the task definition resource for the client.
Yep.
And we updated those upstream URIs. And now, do we do this for each of the other task definitions, or are we just referring to them?
Yeah, we'll do this same process for the rest of them, but even less we won't even need to deal with the upstream the upstreams thing there. So even less will change with these. However, there is one more quick change we need to make before I forget. This tripped me up. For our container definitions parameter in this module, we need to remove the JSON encode function that's being run for it. So just right there, and then the parentheses as well. And that the reason being is that the module in the background expects an HCL list, not a string. And even though the task definition expects a JSON string, since we're not going straight to that, we need it to remain a list, so that in the background, the module takes the list and adds to it the other containers that are required. So yeah. Okay, so this is actually most of the work. All that's left now is doing this again for the fruit service and the vegetable service. And after that, we're just ripping stuff out. So that's all we're going to do here. So we can, to begin with this, we can rewrite line 98 to just module, right, to module fruits, if you would like to. Yep. And this is going to make it use this new task definition. Of course, we need the source and the version now. Yep, perfect.
This file is also getting big.
Yeah, it is. So we could probably put those in a different one, but I'm going to answer this question real quick. So difficulty to derive a mental model when it comes to service mesh. a techie thought. Hopefully, I'm not sure if you're able to tune in to episode 4, but if you go back to episode 4, Jenna and I had a little beginning upfront presentation-esque thing where we try to give a mental model of service mesh in context of a delivery service. So maybe go check that out and see if that can help. And if not, please reach out to me and we can like make a Twitter thread and clarify it for the world, right? Cool. So where are we at here? Yep, this all looks good. We can just get rid of that.
So we need to get rid of this again.
Yep, sure do. And then after that, just all those extra options, which I think we've got there. But so again, what this is doing to the fruit service, it's going to take our original task definition and extend it by adding a handful of sidecars that will act as the console agent, and then also the proxy. So those are the extra things that are going to be added there. So the one thing that we are not going to have time to do today is consoleify the database. The database is still going to be reachable, but we're going to go to it directly as opposed to hooking it up directly with console. And the reason being is that this will work as is, but we would have to do one of two things, and that is either go straight to our database instance and set up console like we would for anything else. However, the reason we're not doing that is because if you are like a large percentage of users, you're probably going to use something like a managed database, right? Like RDS, for example. If that's the case, you can't SSH into an RDS instance, to my knowledge, and set those type of things up. And as a result, you can't have console directly on that. So to manage external services, so things like RDS within console, you have to bring in a concept that's called a terminating gateway, which we will just absolutely not have time to get into today. So we won't do that. However, if you're interested in seeing that or whatever, just let us know and we can take a look at that for next time. So I think right now Jenna has been working diligently in the background to get everything
I'm on the
set up.
vegetables.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah. And as you're going through, Jenna, are there any weird things that you're like, why is this in here?
Not yet. So now, do we need to update the upstream URL? We don't, because these only, in this case, these only reference the database.
Yeah. And the reason being is we're just going to leave the database as just a normal endpoint that stuff reaches out to, instead of trying to put console in front of the database as well. Yeah. Okay. So as you're going through, did you have any other questions about any of the stuff that we pointed out? And then same to chat. If you had any curiosities around these things, please let us know.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, we're actually getting really close to the end here. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a security group, because this is it, right? What we have done right there, we have made it so that when these task definitions are taken by our service, they're going to be made with everything that is required to join the console cluster. It's going to seem a bit automagical, and it is a bit automagical. Yeah, going into, if you wanted to do this by itself, we probably need it like multiple episodes on its own for now. So we'll leave it at that. The last thing we need to do is make another security group for console clients. So let me go ahead and state up front here that we could do this by just going and tweaking every single security group in existence. However, what we're going to do instead is make use of how AWS works with security groups, which is that it, in essence, merges them and allows what is ever more permissive to go through. So if you have two security groups and one says SSH from nowhere and the other one says SSH just from Jenna's location, for example, that one will win and that will work. So we're going to make use of that so that we don't have to tweak a bunch of individual security groups. So hopefully that made sense.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so Jenna's gone ahead and coded that in here, and there's not too much going on. This is just saying that if you are a resource that has this console client security group, you can access anything else that's got this security group on port 8301, which is going to be used for LAN gossip traffic between clients, as well as anything on port 20,000. And port 20,000 is the port that needs to be open for the proxies to all connect to each other, because that's how they're going to be sending traffic in and out. And then, of course, just our usual security group at the end for any outbound traffic at all. So nothing too bad there. There is one tweak we will have to make, and that is that we need to go to the console server security group and enable access from the client on some ports here. So yeah, the console server security group should be somewhere up here. And I believe you've got the security group rules in the background. We can just sort of drop in if you'd like. Yeah. And what these rules are going to do here is that just I can show the chart again after Jenna puts these in, which I believe sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I'm doing it in the right place. Are we adding these?
Yeah.
Or
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just adding them somewhere under this console server security group. We're going to just add those extra security group rules, and you can put them wherever. This spawns a whole. Do we organize them by port or by like type or whatever? It's whatever. This file's already huge anyways, right?
No. I'm gonna just put them at the bottom.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The newer stuff is at the bottom for now, which
yeah. I like that. That's good. Yeah. And so what they're going to do here is just, we've got an inscription, but it basically the console clients need to access the server on RPC. They need to be able to gossip with the server. And then they also need to be able to do 8501, so HTTPS traffic in between themselves and the servers as well. We also have an extra rule that Jenna was looking at that allows HTTPS traffic between console servers themselves. So that's what that's there for. And that, I believe, is all we needed. Am I missing anything there, Jenna?
No, I'm just refreshing my memory on what the other rules that we have are.
Yeah, let me send you a picture of this again. Maybe if you want to show it on the chat, I'll Slack it to you. Okay. It's that 50,000 foot view image.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all we did. We were just creating a security group rules to replicate that, which hopefully makes some sense there. Yeah. So this is all we've been setting up. If you get lost, chat or anyone who's watching this in the future, this is something you can reference to set up all of your different security group rules. And that's all we've done. The only thing that's missing is UDP because we just don't need it. We're just operating over TCP, but that's the only rule that's not there. Okay, sweet. So we are very, very close to the end. We just need to use these things. So we actually need to go to our ECS services file and start both using the modules in place of the task definitions, because right now we're using task definitions that no longer exist. We need to use these new security groups as well. And then there's one more option we'll need to switch. But yeah, line 5 is exactly where we should start here with the modules.
So here.
Yep.
Maybe I needed that. I don't know. Oh, I was hoping it would populate.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it will since the modules are custom, but we'll just do module dot the name, the client. I think we called it client, right? Just whatever we made that label in the task definitions will be it. Yep, module.client. Yep. And then we want the task definition arm. Yeah. Which the reason that's not auto-populating is because it's a custom made module, right? It's something that we've made that isn't necessarily pulled into the whatever runs in the background to detect autocomplete. Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's the first change we needed to make. The second change in this client here is going to be on line 20 here. So with the security groups, we're going to just do a comma and space after that first security group. Yep, and then we're going to just add the new security group we just made, the console client one. Yeah. And while I'll answer your question in just a second. Gadgil, believe I'm saying that right. Let's finish this service first, and then I'll go into it because it has some relevance. So there's that, and that's going to combine the permissions of both. But the way that you can think about it is it has one membership badge right now that says I am a client service. I can contact and talk to any other client services. And then another badge that says I'm also a Consul client, and therefore I can speak over any ports to act as a Consul client and join the cluster. So that's all that's doing there.
Okay.
And then we need one more option that really tripped me up at the bottom here, the top level, called propagate tags. And then all uppercase task definition. Shantanu. Thank you so much for giving me that pronunciation, because otherwise I would look like a fool. So now that she's got that up there, let me address this question. I haven't gone through all of the security group rules, but why isn't the Consul server security group rule allow all only among servers themselves? A very good question. You could absolutely do that. That's more than valid, because if you're the one controlling this infrastructure, you will probably only be tagging Consul servers with the security group. And in that case, that's perfectly fine. The reason that we don't have it is just, well, we're just scoping it down more and more and more and more, right? If someone were to get in and, by off chance, and this was the case, then they could SSH between servers. They could have access to all sorts of other things that perhaps the servers are linked up to that they shouldn't. And then the second question, and then the Consul client, Consul server could also be an allow all with specific ports. Same thing. We're just playing it safe. You could do that, especially if we're operating under the whole security model of we've closed our nice infrastructure off into this perfect walled garden. We're positive no one can get in. That's an option as well. Okay, so yes, looks like we've finished the things up here. Let me explain the propagate tags thing. Why are we adding that? The propagate tags thing, if you're familiar with Kubernetes, it uses annotations to get a lot of stuff done, right? Well, what happens, and that we need to document here, is that when a service is created from this module that we've just made in that ECS task definitions, it actually uses tags added onto those task definitions for discovery and for communication. And in order to propagate those tags to all the tasks that need it, we need this option, and that way the services will do it. So that's all that is there. And I believe that Jen has gone through and changed everything we need to.
Working on it. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Perfect. And so the changes here are actually pretty minimal, and hopefully it's just showing that this refactor to get Consul in, and there's a lot less work here. There's obviously a lot of conceptual stuff, but the actual work itself is digestible. Okay. So any questions so far on that?
No.
Okay, sweet. So we get to do one more fun thing in this file, and that is for the fruits. Huh?
Are we going to delete some code yet?
Yeah. We get to delete the load balancer block in both the fruits and the vegetable service because we don't need it anymore. Yeah. And then
if you don't, I mean, you probably don't know me very well, but I love to delete code because that means there's less things that can go wrong. I'm very much a minimalist when it comes to my code and building new features and all that kind of stuff. So deleting code is awesome.
Yeah, right. So we get to do that. We get to go delete some more. Let's why don't we head over to that nasty security groups file. And the fruits application load balancer and the vegetables application load balancer security group and any references to it can all be deleted because we no longer need them. We do need the client one and the Consul server one. That being said, we only need the Consul server one because we're accessing it. But if we didn't want that one, we could also get rid of it. But we've got it in there just for our convenience. So yeah, that whole
vegetables, right?
Yep, they can all be taken out. The techie thought says that Jenna wants to delete the ECS cluster.
Well, all right. So we deleted some code.
Yep. Are there any other references in there to it?
Oh, well.
I think if you do _ALB to that search, it should point out if there's any. So there is one.
Oh, there is.
So we should Yeah, that makes sense because we were making it so that the fruits and vegetables were allowed inbound from their load balancer. So we should just get rid of both of those.
Just get rid of this, right?
Yep.
And the vegetable one.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll just go to the ECS vegetable service, and that equivalent rule should be there as well. Yep, there it is. Nice. So we get to get rid of that. That solves those. Now we can actually go over to the load balancers file and get rid of the fruit and vegetables load balancer. So a whole bunch of code gone.
Where am I going?
To the load balancers file, the ECS load balancers. Yep. And then anything related to fruits or vegetables can all be removed. And in one of our meetings, Jenna, you asked, will the fruits and vegetable services still be able to scale up easily? And I did go and verify it, and they will. And it's so simple. It's so nice. And I believe we're getting close. After this, I think there's one more change we need to make, and then we get to see if we've done everything right.
Right, exactly. I'm sure
Yeah.
I mistyped something.
I mean, it wouldn't be a demo if that
Right.
hadn't happened. Yeah, but that needs to stay, so that all looks good. Nice. Okay. So there is one last change that we need to do, and that is to the server sh file. In this config file, we need to add a new block in the consul.hcl file that we're generating. You can put it anywhere. We've been doing stuff at the bottom for new stuff, so may as well. And it's just going to be a ports and then open curly braces. Yep. And then we are going to do inside of it HTTP to 8500. Sorry, equals 8500.
Say that again.
Sorry, equals 8500.
Oh, equals. This is like a property. Got it.
Yeah. I could have said that. That would have been easier.
That's okay.
And then just make that on a separate line. Yep. And then we're going to need one more for HTTPS. And we're going to do that on 8501. Now, with this is saying what ports are being listened on for the specific aspects of Consul. By default, it actually listens already on 8500 for HTTP. So we didn't need to specify that one, but just for the heck of it, we've got it in there. But if we want to open up the API via HTTPS, we do need to specify it, which we have done here. Now, there's one more change we have to make that is a side effect of it currently being in beta, and that is we need to change all those verify properties to false, which is what it is. Now, as a refresher, what those did is those made sure that any traffic coming in and out was TLS, right? So that's what it made sure. That doesn't mean that TLS doesn't work. TLS still works. It's just not going to verify that every single request is TLS. The server hostname checked the certificate for the hostname. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be fixed and or improved upon in later releases. But for now, we do have to turn this off to get it to work with the module. If you were to leave this on, it will just hard fail because the servers will say it doesn't recognize the certificates. But for now, this hits it. If you have more questions about it, we can go into it. Yeah, I see the why. I know. The why is really just because it's in beta. I think I know a workaround to make it work. I think I just need to get a hold of the way the module is creating the certificates, and then also and just match those up that we have locally here. But for sake of time, we're gonna take the easy route. I know it is what it is. Yeah. Go ahead, Jenna.
Nope, that was it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that takes us to where we're ready for it to apply. Actually, that is it. Unless did I miss? Yeah, I think we're ready to apply. Unless I missed something. Yeah, and Shantanu, I see your thing. The gRPC. I think that it is at least enabled. Let me look at this error here. Duplicate resource. Oh, there's probably, I bet you it's copy. I bet you we copy pasted it and didn't change the label.
Sure.
I think as far as, so question, gRPC needs to be explicitly enabled. I don't have an answer for that. Mainly because this works. So I think it's getting enabled somewhere. But yeah, I believe you're correct. But it does work as it is. If you figure out why, I'd love to, or have more on that. Please let me know. But was that the error?
Yeah.
Jenna? Yeah.
But now I got
okay.
more.
And now we need to pull the modules in, and we do
right.
that with a Terraform init, and that'll pull those down.
And this is a question at the end. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. If I were building a JavaScript project and did npm install to pull down my dependencies from npm, this is kind of the equivalent where we're pulling, in this case, from the HashiCorp registry.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
Yep. And we can see it's initializing those modules, and now we're good to go. So now let's try again. Hopefully. Yes, that's right. In our modules, that's an argument we don't need, because that's the module handles that for us. So we can just go to every one of our task definition modules and remove that statement, which I believe is there, line 13. Yeah, or you can just do the find replace. Yep. And again, that's just because the module is going to take all these options. And down in the background, Luke Kaiso. Thank goodness. There he is. He's one of the principal engineers working on Consul. And he has the answer that I did not have, which is gRPC only needs to be enabled on Consul clients, which works out because we are creating them through this wonderful mesh task that's going to do that. So let's see, reference to, it's just those. It's all those.
Oh, that's okay. They're all the same though.
True. Yeah. So we're just fixing some errors here, just some simple ones around setting the name of things. So thankfully, nothing crazy, no monsters yet. But after this, the only thing we'll have to do, aside from getting it up, we'll just be exploring some of the things that Consul can do. Name prefix. I think that should just be name prefix. There we go. Okay. Nice. Nothing like formatting, right?
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, would Terraform format have caught those errors? I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if it would have. I'm not sure that format goes through and tries to look at the everything in Consul like that. So, or not Consul, Terraform. I think it just deals with making stuff pretty. But we could always try it, I guess. And what
did I call that? It's just region. Okay.
Yeah.
That is in CloudWatch logs. I picked something the wrong way. So should we just try it really quick, the Terraform format?
You can. I think it just does the making it look good, but yeah, may as well. But while you go through that, I'm gonna touch on something Luke brought up here. So just what's happening behind the scenes is the Envoy proxies are configured by Consul clients over gRPC, and the Consul clients are configured by the Consul servers over a custom RPC protocol on 8300. So it still is being used, but it's all smoke and mirrors behind the scenes for us, so that we don't have to explicitly do anything, which is, I love it. Thank you, Luke. Yeah. So looks like it worked. Perfect. The argument deprecated, we can deal with that some other time. It's just there's a different way to write it. But it looks like everything worked. So we're going to go ahead and do an apply here. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you this is going to not work instantly, but not because it doesn't work, because we've turned on the ACL system and said deny everything by default. So that's why right out of the get-go, it's actually not going to work. But if you would, Jenna, I think, did you want to talk about the survey here? Since
I just was going to say, well, should I put yes here and
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Okay. Yep. So as I mentioned at the beginning, if you were here, we have a survey. We do this every episode. We take your feedback. We incorporate it back into this series of episodes, and we also want feedback about not just the show and what we're doing here, but future topics, feedback about products and services, whether it's HashiCorp or AWS. And we have like a big part of our job is being able to take what you say and what you want and being able to bring that back to our team so that we can reincorporate all that feedback into what we do in the future. So that being said, this is a survey to get some of that feedback. We have, just like the past few weeks, we have up to the first 20 people who fill out the survey will have access to a $25 credit code as long as you haven't participated in this or redeemed one in the past for this series. So that is the survey. I think we'll leave this up for a few minutes as we're letting our Terraform apply go. And I think that's all that I had for the moment.
Cool. Yeah, just please take the survey, reach out to us, let us know what you thought, anything that we can change, whether it's, the flow of things, the presentation, the topics themselves, suggestions. We got pretty thick skin, right? So just let us know. Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, we both personally like really want to be able to make sure that we are building this not only the technology in the right way for you, but making sure that you have the right access to whether it's videos on demand where these will be posted to YouTube later, and also anything that we talk about here, we welcome the feedback.
Yes, we love it. We thrive upon it.
I mentioned something and now I've forgotten what it was, so we can keep going.
Well, if it comes back to you, just
yeah.
Okay, so the other thing we'll need to do here will be to grab that bootstrap token, which we can just use that little convenient script we made for once it's up.
Okay.
This is that fun phase, the Terraform apply, go get a coffee, come back phase. So for those of you who are new to Terraform, that's how this goes, right? In order to make the feedback loop more pleasant, generally, as you wait for things to apply, you will contemplate life. You will go get something to drink, any other sorts of activities you can do for 5 or so minutes, just because, it takes time to get everything up and running. But are there any parts of like the overall architecture of like the service mesh we've set up so far, Jenna, that you wanted to talk about more?
Less about what I want to talk about. I think like one of the observations that I have is for me, I'm still trying to understand the ACL controller. And for me, it's just as like it needs to sink in and I need to do it a little bit more. So I'm not sure if other people need a recap on what that piece is. But I just want to bring that piece up.
No, that's very good. I made my I made my partner listen to me as I tried to explain it to myself to see if it could work. So yeah, as a recap for that, Consul, what it wants to do, it wants to stay so secure that it will not talk to you unless you have a token. That's it, right? You can think of a token like an IAM role or user even if you're familiar with AWS. So that's that, right? So how do we get it to you? We have to work outside of Consul to deliver that token. The ACL controller is doing that for us. That's all it's doing. It's watching any new services that pop up in our cluster, going to the Consul server on our behalf, making a token for that new service, and then handing it over to the service. So that's what that's doing. And one might say, well, how is it secure? Well, among other things, it's secure because the the ACL controller has that root certificate authority certificate, meaning it can verify any other services coming to it through their certificate to make sure it's signed by the same thing, which means that we can trust it. So yes, hopefully you should just be able to run bash scripts.apply. Yeah, there we go. Should run it. Yep. And then that should drop the bootstrap token. I'm more than happy to clarify more on the ACL controller if anyone has questions. Hopefully that token's in your clipboard, so we should be able to log in now. So if you'll just copy that console server endpoint load balancer, which is going to make you lose the copy you just did, but
it won't though, because I have a very special tool that gives me a clipboard history.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's so I work on a Mac. I use a tool called Alfred it's essentially a replacement for this built-in Spotlight, but it gives you a whole bunch of extra things. One of those things is clipboard history and snippets. You won't be able to see it here because I think it gets hidden, but I can do Command Shift V, and it gives me a little list of all my past things that I have copied.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very convenient.
Yeah. All right. So looks like stuff's popping up here slowly. Will you click on nodes here? Yep. Interesting. Click on services again. Okay. Let's will you head over to your terminal again, and let's just grab that client endpoint, the client application load balancer. Yep. And then let's open that in a new tab just to see if anything's going on there. 503. Okay, so let's open up go to the ECS console, if you wouldn't mind. And let's click into our cluster here. And then scroll down, let's see so let's click into the fruit service, if you wouldn't mind. Yep, and then click to tasks. And let's get down, let's click on the task itself here. So that weird number in the first column. Yeah, so just there. And then let's click on logs here. If you wouldn't mind going to the top. And then just click on that logs tab. And then let's click on oh, that's weird. Huh. Interesting. Let's click on the services, go back to the console services UI, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, let's go take a look at the code. I think maybe we perhaps missed something. So let's go back over.
We're trying to figure out why this is not up, right? That's ultimately.
Yeah. Ideally, what'll be what should happen is in that services screen is we should see the fruits and the vegetables ones popping up, but we are not seeing that currently.
And we're not seeing those yet.
And so let's go check out. Go ahead.
You wanted me to go into this one?
Oh no, go back to your code. Let's go take a look at the code here. And then let's go to the task definitions file. Just want to double check something here. Let's see here. We've got let's scroll down to the container definition side of things. Yeah, we've got that there. Let me double check here something. You see, that all looks correct. Will you scroll down to the extra options? Yeah, the tags, the data center. That is our data center name, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just double check that. I mean, it is what I had in here.
Yeah, so that is the name. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go take a look back at, let's go back over to the task definition file. Okay, that looks right. Let's go look at the services file. And then module.vegetable.task definition arn, which is and should be it. Interesting. Oh, okay. I see. I think I see what it is. The security groups here for vegetables and well, for a number of these, they need that extra security group added, that console client.
Oh,
Yeah. Whoopsie.
whoopsies.
Oh.
Like we did up here, the same thing.
Yeah, just that
But
needs to be added to all of them.
for the console client or a different one?
Oh, sorry, for the vegetables one here. Yep. And then for the fruits
Am I
one as
adding
well.
this security group or the other one?
Nope, just that one. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, just perfect. And then we need to do it again down here, which it looks like we've got added. Yep. So we can just save that. And that is probably the problem, because without that, the fruits and vegetables tasks aren't able to gossip and such. So
I only added it in one spot. I need it. Here we go. Here is it.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, fruits and vegetables. So now
Yay.
go back and
Just do a Terraform apply. Yep. And we'll see all the other little extra changes here. So here's crossing our fingers to it being just that. Right.
do we want to so I think a techie thought has a good couple of questions that
yeah.
leads into
Apologies.
what's happening.
Yes. Troubleshooting. So troubleshooting the mesh is still one of topic, maybe small scenarios. It's a good idea, right? Very good idea. We're kind of doing it right now a little, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. But in terms of like a list of places to look and techniques, if you really want to watch some debugging and like hair pulling, a techie thought, Rosemary and I have a getting into console stream where we set it up on just raw VMs and you can watch us. Rosemary's got a ton of those techniques up her sleeve. And then for the next question, I'm trying to see how genuinely I use it with CI/CD. I understand GitOps, but not all orgs have that culture. Maybe it's only my lack of knowledge. So that's a good question. That's something we're going to actually take a look at in the 7th episode, right, Jenna, with some CI/CD related stuff. So we'll be able to touch on that there, and seeing that you have interest in that definitely helps that we're going to be doing that. Okay. So is that how's that apply looking? Is it finished?
It's happening. Yep, the apply is finished. Things are happening.
Cool. So let's look at that services tab. Sorry, the console services UI. My bad.
Yep.
Let me see it open. However, if we go to the client, that endpoint, if we go there and refresh it, it's still not going to be working. So the reason being is because we have the ACL system turned on and we've said deny everything by default. So we need to actually set up intentions that are there to allow service-to-service communication. We need to set those up for between the clients and fruits and between the clients and the vegetables. Now we could do it here, but there's actually a really neat shortcut. If we go to services, well, we just saw we're gonna have to wait a second because our client just died. It died because the intentions were inaccessible. The intentions weren't there. It couldn't access fruits and vegetables, and therefore the load balancer said this is not healthy and just killed it. But it'll actually come back up here in a second, and we'll set it up all then. It could take like a minute or so.
Okay. Was that because
that's
I was clicking around?
Sorry, go ahead.
Was that because I clicked on intentions here?
Oh, no. It's just as soon as the client service goes up, right, the load balancer in front of it starts health checking it. And right now it's returning a 503 because it can't contact the fruits and vegetables. And so that's killing the client service. So let's click into the client.
Oh, that one? Yep.
Perfect. And you see the topology here, how there's those red X's there next to those services.
Yep.
You can just click on the red X and do create. And that will make the intention, and then do it here, create, it'll make the intention. And if we head over to the intentions tab now, or side navigation, we'll see that those have been made for us. And if we go to the 503 service temporarily unavailable tab and refresh, it should start working here shortly. Now, the reason why it may not be working here at the moment, I suspect, is because, there's other tasks. The current client task is still coming up and going down. But here we go. Now it's all working. Sweet. So if you'd like, we can add /UI to the end of that endpoint and look at the UI as well. And yeah, this is a pretty funny, yeah. Control C during Terraform apply. I will admit, sometimes I just get impatient. I'm like, I got to get out of this now. There we go. Look at that. No load balancers between them needed, right? It's all reaching upwards. We can see it here. We can turn things on and off if we want, right? And let's do some other cool stuff. We head back over to the console UI. Let's say that we wanted to create a new user to do some admin work, right? Let's go to tokens. Actually, I take that back. You know what? I don't take it back. Let's make a token. So just click create. And this is the equivalent to making like an IAM role or user, right? And by themselves, IAM roles and users can't do anything. You have to attach permissions, which is what we do with roles and policies. But here you can give it a description, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I don't know. What are we creating this for?
Let's just call it like read services and nodes. We can just put that in there because that's what we're going to set up. Yep. And just leave all of that empty.
Okay.
And click save. And so that would be the equivalent of making a new user or IAM role in AWS. So now let's go to policies and make a new policy to attach to this, right? And we can click create and just call it like read nodes and services. Just underscores between them. Yeah. And then I think you've got it, but there is a little code snippet that I sent you that we can just paste in there, but I will send it to you again just in case.
I think I have it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then while you do that, I'm going to post this language into the chat. So the policies in console follow a language format that I'm going to post the reference to inside of the chat, both to YouTube and Twitch. And then, of course, I got to do it separately for LinkedIn here. Here we go. And that's saying that we can see the policy. Would you go back into the policy real quick?
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, all good. It's just right there at the bottom. Yeah. This is just saying any service prefixed with nothing we can read, and any node that's prefixed with nothing we can read, which all sums up to we can read any services or nodes. So that's what we're doing here. That's the powers we're going to make for that. To use that token, let's head back over to tokens and click into that new token we made. Click on the policies drop down and find that new policy and then save it. Yep. And then just click the little secret ID copy thing there, if you would, and then open a new incognito tab and head back and try to go to the console UI again and log in with this new token, if you wouldn't mind. And we are very close, very, very close here. Now at this point, we're just showing stuff off, right?
I'm just going to this.
Yeah, just to that endpoint right there. Yep. By the way, did StreamYard start working with Firefox?
No. StreamYard is running in Chrome. And I normally use Firefox.
Okay, yeah, smart. Wonder why that's not going.
Do I need /UI at the end?
No. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, it should redirect anyways. But either way, now we'll log in with this new token. So we can just paste that new one in. Yep, and you'll notice that the side navigation is far more limited, right? Right. We can only see some stuff, not all of it. And if we had stuff in, say, the key value store, in fact, click on intentions. I'm not even sure if it'll let us read those. Okay, so it still lets us see the intentions because it hits an API in the background that returns a lot of information. But you'll notice that we can't look at policies, we can't look at roles, but if we go to services and nodes, we can see those. So instantly, once you get console set up, you get a lot of these controls you can start using in terms of the administration of your cluster. And this token system, this is the same thing for both machines and humans. So when you try to, say, add a new service or some new functionality piece to your cluster, you're going to follow this same system. So that is tokens in policies. The roles section so that third piece is just roles are a lot simpler in Consul than they are in other things. Roles are just a collection of policies. So if you click on create, if you wouldn't mind, we could attach a number of policies to this role. So we could name this whatever you wanted, and we could just attach a bunch of these, right? And save it. And then on a token, attach a role instead of the policy. So that's all there is there. And then auth methods are just how we authenticate someone receiving a token. We actually don't need to worry about that because the ACL controller is handling that for us. But for example, we have the AWS IAM auth method that will look at your current role or IAM user or the like, whatever it is that you're logged in and authenticated through AWS through. And if we see that you're authenticated there, we can create and return a token for you. But that's about the extent that we'll get into on those. All right, that's a little mini console tour. Jenna, I guess one more cool feature I wanted to show you was in intentions, if you wouldn't mind going to intentions. Okay. And then I swear we're really close. Right now, we've got it just between, if you click create, real quick, we're not going to actually save this one, but if you were to pick the client one here, so if you pick the client service on the source service, apologies, yeah, right there, the client. And then on the destination side, fruits, we see that we've got allow and deny. So very simple. But if we click application aware, and if we scroll down and click add permission, here we could actually restrict access based on paths to the API. So if we had like a path that we clicked exact on, so if you wouldn't mind clicking exact, and did like /private or whatever, then if that endpoint existed on the fruit service and we selected deny, then what we would set up is that the client would never be able to detect that endpoint. But anyhow,
the client wouldn't be able to do what?
It wouldn't, with this rule as it is right here, if we were to save this, if the client tried to contact the fruit service at the endpoint /private, it would be denied.
Okay, got it.
But all other endpoints would be game. They'd be open.
So
that's a pretty cool feature. And that's all I got for inside of Consul for now.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot here and different things different ways of configuring the connections, basically.
Yep, there's a lot. You can do it through these intentions, or you can do it through the tokens. But you can just cancel that one. We don't need that. So there is one final thing, and that is the scaling side. If we wanted to scale up your services, right? So why don't we do that real quick? This will literally take about a minute.
Okay.
If you would hop back over to your code, let's say that we want 3 fruit services, for example, right? All you need to do to scale those up now is change that desired count parameter right there to 3, and you're done. And just run Terraform apply, and all the scaling stuff is taken care of. So we'll run this. It's going to refresh the state, and then we'll see for sure that this is happening here in a second. But yeah, so that is the Consul service mesh, Jenna. What do you think about it so far?
This is great. I'm looking forward to like diving into the intention stuff a little bit more. Just to I think I understand like what we've talked about today, but I want to think a little bit more about other scenarios, real life scenarios, and like the different kinds of configurations you might have. Just to solidify it in my brain.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's prove scaling is working here. Let's head over to the ECS console, if you wouldn't mind. And go to our services tab, which we're in, and click on that fruits service right there. Yeah, there we go. We see desired or up, and we see that it's, if you click on tasks, there you go. So it looks like we still got 2 standing up. Once these are up, we'll be able to see them actually being routed to, which will be neat. Yeah, there's a new functionality y'all added, the ECS Anywhere, that lets you like connect ECS to on-prem stuff. This would actually work with it as well. You'd still follow the same pattern. So if you wanted to connect on-prem to ECS, that's an option you can do with Consul here, which is I have not ventured into yet, but I do know it's possible. So hopefully these will, okay, cool. So now they're up and running. let's head over to the console UI real quick and just go to services. And there we can see Fruits has got 3 instances. We can click on it, I guess, to see what it's saying. Yeah, so we see that it's hitting the Fruit service. Now, how do we know it's actually load balancing to them? Let's go back to our client application load balancer that you have in that last tab there, the fake service tab. Yep, and remove the UI part. Although I guess you can leave it here. You can leave it here. And we're going to just watch that IP address under Fruits. You see that's 10.255.139. Yeah, let's just start refreshing it, and we eventually we should see this number change to one of the other routes. And so there we go. We see a new IP, and if we keep refreshing it, we should see. So we've seen that one before. There we go. There's a new one as well. So we see that it's being load balanced off to those 3 services. So there you go. Now you can have unlimited fruits, unlimited vegetables. That's what we all want, right?
Yeah. All right.
Good job, Jenna. Good job. You just created a whole jungle of code, right? It is order, right? There's just order to the jungle, but there's a lot.
There is a lot there, yeah. So I'm going to, when we're done here, I am going to do, well, we'll do a commit right now of our code.
Yes.
And then, oops, I want to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, that feeling when you commit DS store to Git, it's like,
oh yeah.
Yay, nice. I like
and then the next thing I want to show really quick here is
oh, nice, good idea.
The format, and I'm separating the original commit with this change just so that you can see the difference between oh, did I spell it wrong? It's like FMT.
You spelled it right. We spelled it wrong. Yeah.
I did these. I'm doing these in separate commits so that we don't have one huge commit with well, we already do have one huge commit with a bunch of changes, but now you can see the difference between the functional changes we made and the formatting changes we're making.
Yeah. And let me answer this question real quick. Are these episodes also streaming on YouTube? They absolutely are. All past episodes with all chapter markers, links, and resources that we've used are all under the description there. As soon as I remove your comment here, LinkedIn user, whoever you may be, I'm going to show the banner for our past episodes here. So you can check that out. So I believe Jenna's just showing us the formatting fun, right?
Yep. So all it's doing is not a whole lot happened here, but it's aligning our equal signs and variables. We had a lot more down here because we had a bunch of stuff. Oh, we didn't do the format during the last episode, so now it's cleaning up our variables.
Yeah, it's a nice quality of life thing. So when you're scanning through code, you see everything lined up, which seems small, but when you're searching for a needle in a haystack, right? Any organization helps. So,
yep.
Okay, so that brings us here towards the pretty much to the end of this one. Apologies that we wound up going over a little bit, but survey time, Jenna.
Yeah, we finished, so that's good. This is what I was looking forward to for this episode, is just being able to connect it all together and see where we were going from our, episode 1 all the way through episode 6. Again, this is a survey. We very much value your feedback. I'll leave it open for a little bit while after this episode in case you're, catching up. And the first 20 people who submit a survey will have access to a $25 AWS credit code. There's still some left. However, if you have received this credit code for this series of episodes in the past, you won't be eligible for this one. Yeah, I think we're at the end here. If there are, again, like your questions and feedback and commentary and help in debugging some of our issues during the stream, and doing that in chat that's helpful for us. So please keep that up.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have another episode. We have one last episode of this series that we're going to be doing. Some of this is, I think, actually almost all of it is feedback from past episodes on, hey, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want to understand XYZ. And so we're kind of going to have a recap episode. I don't know if we have the full agenda figured out, but do you have a couple of comments on what some of the things we're going to talk about are?
Yeah. In addition to looking at the feedback and picking some topics through there, I know we discussed going into a good deal with CI/CD, right? Like, we kind of saw already here how to scale up services, but so like, how do you add a new service? What would the process look like if you wired up to, say, GitHub or code commit or any type of VCS? What are some of the other things you can do before you deploy, right? Should you check your Terraform code beforehand? Just sort of answering all those thoughts so that perhaps this project that we have here can serve as, a foundation for any future, an infrastructure setup you might use.
Yeah. I think that's it. Wait,
I believe
what did we
so.
do here? Oh yeah, I'm going to commit this.
Yes. We are going to commit it and then probably destroy all of our work with Terraform destroy. Yeah. I will tell you, bug-wise, so you remember how we set out those intentions, right? I, much to my own amazement, my own incompetence, kept standing the infrastructure up, forgetting that I had to set the intentions and being like, why isn't this working? And I can't tell you how long I wasted tinkering with security groups only to realize that it was like, oh, that's right. I have to do this after it's up. But you live and you learn. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Well,
the destroyer is running. So I think we are at the end.
Yeah, this is the credits scrolling by. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Terraform destroy credits.
I think our next stream is going to be on June 2nd, I believe.
Yep.
So June 2nd is when we'll meet back up again for one last hurrah. And thank you everyone for coming. And thank you so much, Jenna, for doing all the coding and stuff.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.
Till next time.
Yep.